Doesn't matter.
All right, awesome. Oh, perfect time for the alarm to go off. All right, we're live. Jason, how you doing?
Mate, I'm fantastic. Yourself?
Good, mate. We've been threatening to have this chat for a while because we share a lot in common. We've done a little bit of training together. But before we get deep into it, I find the best way to get these going and keep them on task is tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for work now, and what you do. Oh, sorry. Look, I got to turn this thing off. Well, and when you started martial arts.
Cool. So what I do for work at the moment now, I run a company called Trainer HQ. We started that back in 2008. When I say we, myself and my business partner, Brad Shepherd, we've both been in the industry, fitness industry, for 26 years now. So I had gyms, trainers working for me, the whole bit. So that was my career leaving school. But in 2008, we formed this business primarily to help other people that were in the fitness industry coming in with the endeavor and the passion to want to be successful in running a fitness business, but yet didn't have the right tools, didn't have the right training in terms of how to make a business successful. So Brad and I got together, and due to our experience and success that we've had, we started to map out a course and a pathway that someone could follow to make sure that if they did enter the industry, be it you or had been in the industry for a while and just fumbling their way through it like I did for the first 5 years, that it gave them a platform, and we called it Pathway to Profit. So it broke it down to what they needed to do to make sure not only could they do what they love and not be a statistic and dropping out, but they could make a real go of it. So that's grown since 2008. Just us starting, we have a team now, 16, a lot of coaches that help deliver the work and the course and the support. And I think since then we've educated well over 10,000 people in the fitness industry in how to run and improve their business. So providing the training, education, resources, and support. So seminars around the country. We've written a #1 best-selling book, and all in an attempt just to make sure that there's a high level of standard out there in the industry.
That's awesome, Jason. Now, when did you start training martial arts? Tell us a little bit about that.
Martial arts, my first experience was I was 5, and my dad he was a policeman, but he used to run the PCYC in Brisbane and Wollongabba. So I had that fortunate experience of going with him into work and being around all this, the boxing and karate and judo. And judo was the thing that I first took to for whatever reason. I was a 5-year-old. So I started judo at the age of 5. Did that till about the age of 12, but competed, and both my sister and I won state and national titles as a junior, as kids, and I loved it. That was my first experience with martial arts, and judo for me was a great base. It was a great thing to start as a kid. I get a lot of I was quite high energy as a kid, so it was a good avenue for me to get some of that energy out. And translated a lot over in other sports such as rugby league. But judo was where I started my martial arts at a young age, and then went in to do jiu-jitsu. I was still doing judo at about the age of 10. Then I started doing jiu-jitsu under Mark Hazeman, so Chris Hazeman's dad, which Chris. So I started was a student under Chris, Chris's dad for a long time. So. That's been my base of martial arts, and then I had a break, started playing footy and rugby league, had done some kickboxing and boxing and all that stuff, and then it wasn't until I met back up with Dan Higgins, our mutual friend and coach, at the age of about 28, that I started getting back into it. And it was funny because I had no real intentions of it. It was a mate of mine who I was training with, doing some just weight training, strength training, and the UFC. He'd fallen in love with seeing, the UFC, the very first 1 and 2 UFC, and I was saying to him, I think he fell in love with all the glitz and glamour of walking out And so I said, well, if you want to do that stuff, I'm not your guy. I know who is, though. And we went down to Dan's Integrated at the time where they were at. And my mate lasted about 2 weeks, I reckon, when he saw the reality of what it took to be a fighter. And I didn't even really want to. I wasn't really interested in getting back into at that stage. And I stayed. I next ended up staying. And 15, 16 years later, I'm still training, with under Dan. And recently got my black belt in the, BJJ. It's been over a year now. So,
do you reckon there's a parallel in that too? Like some people like the idea of being a fighter, just like some people like the idea of being a personal trainer or running a gym, but actually seeing it through, like realizing that you actually suck at it, and like people don't just come to you and throw their money at you to train you, like in the same as fighting, like you just don't get skills, don't just come at you. You have to go earn those freaking things. Like there's definitely got to be a parallel there.
Yeah, I agree with anything, isn't it? With some people like they want whatever they want, but from sitting down on their backside, So, and the other part of my journey was getting into the emotional intelligence and psychology field about 16 years ago, due to my own depression and anxiety at a certain point in my mid to late 20s, and I learned all these, about myself and mindset and behaviours and all that. So, I've taught that for a long time as well. And you definitely see there's two types of people. There's the people who, will talk about it, and there's the people who just get on with it and do it. So, yeah, there's definitely two types of people. There's people that want to win the lotto, and the people that go and just get all that stuff themselves,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's interesting. So you said you did a lot of professional development kind of at the same time that you started jiu-jitsu as well. How much did jiu-jitsu have an effect on you wanting to seek out a little bit more professional development and personal development?
Why did I? Or
yeah, why did you? Was there any kind of correlation between the two?
No, look, I think there was just a point in my time in my life where I had a few circumstances that, as a young male, I just didn't know how to deal with and handle. And I never had any formal lessons on emotions and what to do with them and emotional intelligence, other than to stuff them down, and try to put my chest out and keep powering forward. And I guess that only works for so long, where then I just started to get anxiety attacks and panic attacks. So, what forced me really to go and get help was that I was just in a bad way. I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, to the point where I almost didn't want to leave the house. I must have been about 26 or 27 at this stage. And I think a part of that was, at that time, I was a bit lost. I wasn't sure where I was going, where I was heading, and had no sense of direction or purpose. And I think a lot of things contributed to that. But as a young male, asking for help wasn't something that I was accustomed to or did very, very well, because I thought it was a sign of weakness, if you had to ask for help. So I spent, I guess, a lot of my childhood and teenage years, getting into weights and martial arts and that, to probably, the wrong focus on what true strength is. And, I just got to a point where I needed to ask for help. I was going to doctors, and they were saying, mate, I think you're a bit depressed and maybe a bit stressed. And I was going, no, there's something physically wrong with me, do more tests. And I guess I heard it enough where I just had to acknowledge, go, you know what, I'm not coping. I'm not in a good way. And I need help. And for me, asking for help was the biggest challenge for me and hurdle to get over, because I just didn't acknowledge it, So that's what led me down that pathway, was just being enough pain, So, and with my learnings, I definitely don't recommend that route. I don't recommend getting to the bottom of the barrel before you start doing something about it. But it was pain.
What would you recommend? What would you recommend now? Because this is important. People, you can recommend all you want, but people kind of want to hear that you've hit rock bottom before they listen to your recommendations. What would you recommend?
Oh, look, I mean, emotional intelligence is where it at. When I say emotional intelligence, it's starting to understand, about that. So intellectual intelligence is all good and well, but knowing what to do when you're feeling stressed, knowing what to do when you've got anxiety. There's different facets of that. I mean, in this day and age, there's plenty of concepts around, but for me, learning about emotional intelligence was the best thing. There's plenty of information, plenty of books around it, on it, but that was the big game changer for me, was learning that it was okay to feel scared. It was okay to feel anger. It was okay to feel upset and fearful. And all those things were the things I was pressing down. So the way it only works is that most people want to get as much of the good emotions as they can, happy, peace, joy, love, all that stuff. But they try to avoid the so-called bad ones, as they're labelled, which are not bad. They're all just emotions. But, let's avoid anger, sadness and fear. And so normally men are great at doing anger really well, even though you and I might tell there's someone who's really scared, but guys will front up with anger. And women don't do anger very well. They do sadness really well. So learning that there's no good or bad in what we're feeling, but learning what to do with those emotions is really important. So, and for me, I had the anger, I was good at doing that. Sadness, I really didn't know how to express that. It was a scary place to go. And, if anger doesn't have an appropriate way to get out of your body, then it'll go down to the next level. And sadness for me is really just anger without motivation, and that's when depression hits. So you're so drained from it all that now you go down to the next level. So anger sits on top of sadness, and then sadness sits on top of fear. And then so I didn't express and have an avenue to get the sadness out. So then I was left with anxiety, panic attacks, and that's fear sits on the bottom. So
do you think it would have helped if maybe some of your coaches had talked about emotions and clearness of mind and all those things that sometimes coaches maybe they don't understand it themselves, but I know sometimes when I'm talking to even my kids in my class, it's like, why do we take 3 deep breaths after we hurt? Why are we doing that? What else can we use 3 deep breaths for? Okay, when we're mad. Okay, why do 3 deep breaths help when we're mad? And we try and teach problem solving through those emotions rather than, we're not avoiding them. I'm not telling the kids, like, okay, sweet, you're crying now. 3 deep breaths. Let's figure out why we're crying, what the problem is, and how we're going to fix it, rather than just continuing to blubber on. Because I mean, there's so much out there now, especially when we talk to mindfulness. And I had a good friend of mine, Melissa Harris, on here the other day, and we were talking about how mindfulness is almost kind of like, we used to tell people to get on with it.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily helpful, right? But that's kind of what mindfulness is telling you to do. It's like, it's okay to be sad, but you don't have to wallow in it. You can still go do fun things and come back and address that sadness later to do whatever it is. It's like, like martial arts training. You had a bad day. What a perfect day to do martial arts training. Yeah. You had a shitty day. Go have some fun, and then figure out later, after you've had some fun, why you're having shitty days, and see if you can make some changes. Is that something that martial arts eventually helped you with, or did you find it was counseling? What was it that got you through that spot?
Yeah, it was all the above. I mean, personally, it was the counselling, and finding my first mentor who taught me all this stuff, and doing deep emotional healing workshops and all that stuff for a long time was what really helped me get through it. Martial arts has always been that place where, when I go there, it is a sense of meditation, and you can leave all your stuff at the door. Because if you don't, you're going to get choked out, armbarred, punched in the face, whatever. So you've got to be in that moment. But I really want to learn and understand more about what was going on internally for me. And what you just described before is to me spot on. that it is okay to be sad. It's okay to be sad. It's also okay to be all right as well. So I learned all of that. If someone says, "How you doing?" I can say, "Oh, I'm experiencing some sadness, but I'm okay." You know, I'm experiencing some frustration, but I'm okay. So you can separate the two, because emotions are just feelings, right? They're energy in our body, and they're there to be expressed or suppressed. So the problem is when, for me, I thought that if I was sad, I was weak. That was the association with it. That was the problem. So I wanted to avoid it because that was what I was thinking. It's like growing up in our era, definitely when I was growing up, there's that lesson that's taught, and it's not a sit down lesson. It's like you're a big boy now, don't cry. In a footy game, if a boy gets hurt, they just whip you off, and a new boy comes on. Netball, if a girl gets hurt, they all stop. So there's all those lessons that were associated with certain emotions. But I just realised that no area of life is ever going to be perfect, and we're all going to go through certain challenges, ups and downs. But it's a matter of what you said before. Do you allow that to ripple effect in every area of your life? So if my relationship's not going well with my partner, then does that mean do I turn up and be miserable guts in my work and all the other areas of my life that are going well? And that's what I was doing, and that's what I've seen a lot of. People go, I'm having a blue with me missus, it's not going well. So they carry that through the whole day, every day, to other areas of life, rather than what you were saying, go, well, that area of my life's not working. I've got to go off to work, which is, I can make that a positive experience. I've just got to deal with this when I get back home. So I'm going to go and enjoy the day. That's still going to be there when I get back. Can I separate the two? But if you haven't trained yourself, or you haven't, taken the time to educate yourself on what that's like, then yeah, you won't. You'll get triggered by it, and then something can happen in the morning, and you can spend your whole day in a shitty mood.
Triggered, yeah. There's an interesting word. Triggered, yep. Because realistically, I don't know who started that kind of thing where people are kind of like, oh, I'm triggered by this, I'm triggered by that. It almost where it became like an excuse for people. It's like, I'm triggered by this, so everybody else needs to know. If it's a trigger for you, then that's a signpost for you to take control, not a signpost for the rest of the world to change for you. You can't change the rest of the world. No one can. They're triggers. Triggers are things for personal responsibility only. So I think that's where the true strength of realizing where I do like the idea that emotions are signposts rather than triggers for things. That word plays on me a little bit. Maybe it triggers me.
Being triggered by the trigger.
Getting triggered by the trigger. Yeah, absolutely. But I think there is a space for maybe older people's like you, me, or other people that have been through this to be in martial arts clubs and maybe talking about the mental game a little bit for the younger guys. Because what I found, some of the places where I trained at, we didn't have older members with a strong mental game. Which is really a downfall, right? Because that's hopefully men in their 30s plus. That's when your mental game is actually at its best. 24 and under, it's not so good.
There's only a couple of things on at that point.
Yeah. What would be your advice to any young guys out there that might be a little bit lost now? That they're hanging out in gyms or martial arts gyms, how they can pull themselves out of that hole?
If they're just feeling a little bit lost, or
if they're feeling a little bit lost and they're looking to find some purpose.
It's quite a broad question, but the first thing when we talk about a sense of direction and purpose, I guess I look at all the areas. I looked at all the areas of my life, and I looked at what ones were working, what ones weren't. And normally for me, I recommend I go, look, instead of trying to turn over a new forest and change everything, just pick one or two areas of your life that you'd like to be better at. And again, an example of that for me, when I just realized I wanted to be better at, say, my own emotional intelligence. So I spent a good year, just that was my focus. So I think we all know to some degree what our struggles are and battles are, and we can rather just persist along with them, or we can start to find avenues to do it. So if we know that, look, I'm struggling emotionally, or I get off track easily, I'd go, well, look, if I was to spend the next 12 months investing in understanding emotional intelligence, how to deal with my emotions, maybe how to build my mental strength, then I would pick two areas each year that you want to get better at and improve at, to create a stronger foundation for ourselves in the future. I mean, you probably heard that terminology about what would the future self say about the decisions you're making today. And I hear a lot of parents doing that with their kids now, saying, well, what would your future say about this decision you're going to make? But to some degree, I like it, because for me, I went like, I remember a time, because I was having the anxiety and panics, and I learned this method. It was how to relax in 30 seconds or less. And it was a method that they used to teach. My mentor taught at the Institute of Sport in Canberra. And I went, you know what? If for the next year all I did was that practice, was how to be relaxed when it counted the most, that would be a very useful tool for me moving forward the rest of my life. And that was one thing I did. And I remember being in a group of 30 people at the time who we all learnt it. And I don't remember anyone else who really followed it all through, So like most things, learnt that one, jiu-jitsu move or whatever, I'm on to the next 3,000, and I haven't perfected that one. So my advice is pick one or two areas of your life that you're not, I don't know if the right word's happy with, but you want some improvement with, and find who's good at it that you know. Do you know somebody who you go, really like the way that they deal with stress or pressure? If I don't, well then, there's plenty of information out there now, books, courses, people you can find. It's really easy. And I would go to work on improving that area of your life one at a time. And so 2 areas of your life, if you work on being better each year, then in 5 years, you've got 10 new empowering, habits or behaviors that are going to serve you moving forward, for the rest of your life. So that was definitely my approach. That's what I did. Instead of the whole New Year's, I'm going to turn over a new forest and change everything about my life, weight, health, partner, money, business, all the rest of it. I would just say focus on 1 or 2 areas that you really want to sharpen up on, and find the appropriate people to surround yourself with, find the right courses of mentors, and actively start seeking out better improvements in those areas.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. I love the layering of skills. You can't fix everything at once, and I actually think that's why martial arts and fitness training are such a powerful vehicle for people, because if you're not healthy, if you can't stick to a routine, and you can't structure things for your own personal health, how are you going to structure? How do you structure a business? How do you structure a family with relationships? How are you going to hit all those structures? I really think the layering of learning things, whether it be learning jiu-jitsu and layering positions, even on a micro sense, like in a lesson, like if you're going to you can't learn everything. You're not going to guard pass, knee right, armbar, back take, and do this giant lesson missing all the details of the things that you did. It might be great to freshen up some training if you already know how to do the takedown and the guard pass and everything else, but it's not going to make the greatest lesson.
No.
And then same as if you were to do a lesson and you were to teach a guard pass, and then at the end of the lesson you go, okay, now we're just going to free roll. Well, you're only going to get so many opportunities to guard pass while you're free rolling. Why don't you drill guard passing as a resisted activity first? And I think that kind of stuff is what people should be trying to do with their lives as well. It's like, you know what? No wonder I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating well or exercising, and then I'm going to work pissed off and I'm stressed. Maybe the best thing you can sort out first is making sure you get a good night's sleep for a couple of days in a row, and then start sorting something else out. And then it's little things, right? You're fixing little things like your sleep.
Yeah, and then it's going to have a ripple effect, and there on after. And it's the biggest thing that I learned. And when you look at it, you could label as having some patience, and which I never had when I was younger. That's for sure. I was very impatient and a bit of discipline just to stick with something. But I think all of this stuff that we're talking about and what you mentioned then, the part I like about it is it's who you become in the process. I tuned in a bit of your talk earlier today about people doing challenges and the weight loss and all that stuff, and go from challenge to challenge to challenge. Well, they haven't really learned anything about themselves. They haven't really become something different in the process. So I always look at that like, who are you becoming in the process of this endeavor? Are you again repeating the same old patterns of going, well, I've got to lose this weight in the next 8 weeks, and that's the same thinking you had last time. So you haven't changed your thinking, you haven't changed any beliefs around, you haven't changed your relationship with health and fitness. And I talk a lot about relationships with people with money. So if money was a person, how would you describe that relationship? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Is it unstable? And more importantly, if money had a chance to respond, how would money respond about you? And you'll pretty quickly see if like us, like people, if we don't have a healthy relationship and we've got to be together all the time, if we don't work on that relationship to make it better, it's a rough road. Same with food, same with money, same with time, same with our health. If we don't actually go inwards to go, well, what's my actual relationship like with health? What's my beliefs around health and being in shape? Because that's the internal journey. But most of us look like I heard you earlier today saying, oh, I'll go and do this next challenge or this next thing or buy that next piece of shit equipment on the infomercials at night, and that'll do it. But it's always outward rather than inward. So, that's the other thing I encourage people to go is, how would you actually describe your relationship with this thing that you want to improve in your life? Because if you don't start there, you're just going to keep repeating the same old patterns anyway.
Yeah, and we could use that for a whole bunch of different things, whether it be building a business or personal wealth or personal health, or even a fight camp. What skills do I need to beat this guy, and then work backwards and create the training program to get there. It's like, okay, well, I want this much freedom of time in my business, so I need to earn this much money to be able to do that and work backwards. Like I want to pay off my house by X amount of time, which means I'm going to need this much money. How am I going to make it? And work backwards. I think that's a really good tool, which nobody is really using in the fitness industry when they sit down with people. We're always saying is, how much weight do you want to lose, and work backwards. When it's like, really what we should be asking is, what type of life do you want to create, and how do you want to feel, and let's work backwards from there. And weight might be part of it, but like, if you want to sit at that healthy weight, what life would that look like? Like, let's have a look at the life that you're going to lead if you want to walk around with abs all the time, or do you just want to be healthy and be able to run around with your kids. You probably don't need abs to do that, or do you want to be able to train every day and enjoy training every day? And if that's the case, then, let's work you up to training every day as the goal, as opposed to getting the weight down. And the weight will sort itself out later as a part of the process. It's an interesting thing that we do. And look, I've made lots of money out of boot camps over the years as well too. Like, I think they're great, but I also now I actually don't run them. Like, we sell a minimum term period as a thing for people who are interested in fitness or memberships. But I just made a value decision on it that wasn't the type of person that we were interested in anymore. We wanted to kind of teach people to, like, this is a lifestyle gym, like, you come here and we can help you lose the weight and all that kind of stuff, but we want you to join in the community and be part of something. So it's a little bit of a different business model, but it works. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing for it to work either.
Yeah, I like that. And, the big thing that I'm always talking about the clients that we work with is, I mean, like the problem, part of the problem is that when people come into the fitness industry or they start a business, where do they get most of their ideas and marketing and all that from? And they copy other people. So
Yeah.
copy. So I go to people, why are you doing these challenges? I don't know. That's what everyone's doing. Okay, it's a great business plan. That's going to go well for you. So what we do is go, well, what do you want to be known for? Because if you are running 21-day challenges or 8-week challenges, that's what the marketplace is going to perceive you as going. And if that's what you want to be known for, great. And most of them, 9 times out of 10 go, well, no, I actually don't want to be known for an 8-week challenge person. I go, well, what do you want to be known for? And then we start getting into more about, well, you're putting the wrong message out to the marketplace anyway. I think the consumer, while they've got a responsibility to educate themselves, they're also not, we're educating them, and that's all that's out there, boot camps, challenges. When that's not really what most of the businesses do. They just don't know. They just don't understand what they're truly selling in the marketplace or how to deliver that message effectively. So the consumer's just left with, I guess you do a challenge, I guess you do a fast, I guess you do a boot camp, I guess you do a 45 or join a gym. They think that's the answer, but it's not. It's just an avenue, for them to participate in. So what you're doing, I really like it, because you can put out to the community, this is what we actually do, this is what our values are, this is what we are going to deliver in terms of outcomes. And if it's by an 8-week challenge, 16-week process or program, that's not the important part. This is what you can expect to experience along the way. And if you're talking about long-term change, then and that's what you want to do, great,
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like if you do a challenge, you're giving someone an end date of your own usefulness as well. It's like I'm only going to be useful to you for 12 weeks, then you'll know everything, and then see me again if you still need me. Whereas we kind of like eventually, like after 12 weeks, while we still have options for support for people, sometimes I'm disappointed. I haven't been able to empower you enough to realize, like, just keep training, and we can, now you can adjust your own nutrition plan. Where your calories are and where they aren't and what they work for you. It's like we shouldn't be looking for the next best way to do it all the time. So we have a pretty solid nutrition system now that we really try and educate people on it as well. But again, I don't want to be the food guy all the time either. Like it's a tool to get where we want, but you also got to enjoy life and find balance inside of that stuff. I don't know about you, but I don't want to do maths every week forever. Sometimes I just get fat and I'm like, oh, I better start calorie counting again. And I enjoy getting fat too, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it should be a life skill that people know how to get rid of it and stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a long time since I had the gym 20 probably years ago, and even back then, we were, even though we were a gym, we almost going broke. We'll get you into action. That's when I started getting a business coach and help and mentors. And back then it wasn't, now there's more business coaches than customers half the time. But I mean, it was rare back then. And that's how I started to learn all this stuff, was from some of the coaches and mentors I had saying, well, what are you doing here? What are you trying to be and provide? And coming up with 3 main services that we knew were really good at. And, there wasn't particularly an end date on it, but they had outcomes. And, I'm a big believer on, if I'm putting something out in the marketplace, most people want to start, middle, and end. They want some kind of end date. You go to uni because it's 3 years or 4 years. There's an end date. It's not just ongoing. And so we would sell something like a trim and tone program back then for men or for women. They were slightly different. we had a timeline to show the consumer, like, hey, this is what you can expect in the first 4 weeks. These are types of results that you get. This will happen. Sleep, energy, all that stuff. So we explained the process. So trying to guess what was going on, they knew the expectation. And so some of the programs, we might have said, look, somewhere between 12 and 16 weeks is predominantly when people start to reach, their goal or outcomes, of course, depending on how much weight and things they're going to lose. But then we said, but that's not the end of the road. Then we go on to your maintenance phase, or you might want to run a marathon, or who knows once you achieve this initial goal. So you're right. Back to that 8-week thing, most businesses struggle because they go, well, 8-week challenge, and then they don't know what to do next. Because they haven't thought that far ahead. So they're always trying to find new clients. They're also letting down their clients because they're not really doing a good job of actually saying what is actually involved in you keeping this weight off. So there's that two sides to it. But I'm a big believer in going, well, what are you actually promoting and doing and offering here, and what's the solution for this person? What needs to be involved in that training or program for this person to get the results? Because there's no real thought process in just running an 8-week challenge and saying people come up to unlimited classes and get smashed every day that you turn up and train. There's no real thought process in that.
What do you attribute your commitment to? So obviously you've been fit for a long time. You've done at least 15 or 16 years of jiu-jitsu. You've been doing martial arts since you were a kid, off and on. What do you attribute that to? Do you think you were just born being committed or obsessed by things, or was that something that your parents helped you with?
As you were saying it, it's not something I've often thought about. But when you were talking, the thing that popped up is that I think I was probably geared that way a little bit. However, I watched my dad. I watched my dad be active in sport. He was a weightlifter. So I don't know, if that had a part playing it where I was just around it, and that's all I knew and saw. So as young as I can remember, I saw my dad lifting, working out, weights. I used to watch him go and play AFL and footy, and I'm assuming that just had a part for me to go, well, that's just a way of life. That's just the way it is. So I don't even think about it. It's not like I've never had to think about should or shouldn't I go to the gym? Shouldn't go and train? Should I do sport? It's like that doesn't even enter my mind. It's just always been from a young age. Let's go. It's like brushing your teeth for me. It's all part of it. I don't have to force myself. These days, it's smarter and changed with training. Like, I'm very aware of more rest, recovery, and all that stuff. But I really enjoy it. It's a part of my life. I don't feel mentally and physically and all that if I don't train. So for me, it's just been from a very young age.
I turn into a monster if I don't train. I'm aware of that. So I apologize to anyone that's seen me be a monster. But you said something.
When you're not training.
Yeah, you will. But you said something really important there, is that like your father role modeled it for you to a point where you don't even think about it anymore. So to all the parents out there that are putting their kids into martial arts, at least be going to the gym. But bottom dollar, set the example for your kids, and if you're struggling getting your kids to training and all these other things, it could 100% be a role model issue, that you're not role modeling to them the fact that you're willing to put in effort to any kind of physical nature routine ever. I've never struggled with my kids. I've never lost a fight with them over eating healthy food or having them train, because they're non-negotiables, just like you said, just like brushing your teeth. We don't ask our kids if they want to or don't want to brush their teeth. We just tell them to brush their teeth. Don't ask your kids if you want them or not want them to train. Just say, hey, we're going to try out this sport. And, and when they start wanting to do other sports, and then encourage them to choose different sports. They don't need to do the one thing. They don't have to be martial artists. They don't have to just do boxing or do jiu-jitsu. But my kids love martial arts now. I've spent so much time play fighting with them and them watching me run, lift weights and do all those things that, I was in the gym today with Lily having a pupil free day. I didn't tell her to. She put her Apple earpods in and started hitting the bag and lifting weights. She's 14.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, with a certain amount of self-motivation. But you got to put in that groundwork early, from 5 upwards, like at 5 upwards, like I'm sure you didn't go search out your own judo club at 5 years old.
No, like I said, it was purely because I got picked up from kindergarten, taken to the PCYC. I'm sitting there watching it, going, I want to do that. And so I was being in that, because, otherwise, I doubt, who knows when I would have started sport or whatever, probably until I went to, school. So, I agree with everything you said in terms of, if your kids aren't eating healthy and they're not doing this and that, you got to look at yourself first and go, what kind of role model, am I presenting? And finally, I don't know if you've experienced this with having kids, but, like I think we've all got the inner child in us that, likes to rebel authority, and we'll, the thing called authority issue, right, where as a kid you get told what you can and can't do all the time, but as an adult, there's one main authority issue in your life now trying to get you to do what's in your best interest, and that's us. So, if you've ever had that internal battle doing that to yourself, like going, you really should go to the gym, Jason, there's a little inner child in you going, don't fucking tell me what I should be doing. And I've had clients where I've gone there, I've got to stop eating all this ice cream, and I go, well, look, here's what I want you to do. When it comes time for you to want that ice cream, I want you to stand in one spot long enough and stop yourself from having it until you see what emotion comes up. And this is back to our emotional intelligence combo. They'll stand there, and normally there'll be emotion come up, and mostly it might be anger or whatever. And then I'll go, right, what are you feeling? They go, fucking angry. And I go, well, what do you mean angry? I go, fucking, I really want it. And I hear the language, and I go, how old is that language? I want it. It's like, I feel about 10. I go, yeah, because it's the little 10-year-old you that for whatever reason is rebelling against this because he could get his own way when he was younger, or her was younger. And then because what does a 10-year-old and 8-year-old know about health and nutrition? So when you look at it from that point of view, when someone's trying to get themselves to go to the gym or start fitness or get in shape, and there's resistance, normally it's because it's that authority issue. The wounded inner child is trying to take over, and that's what the battle is. Because really, logically, you go for an adult to be overweight, out of shape, treat their body like an amusement park and put themselves in harm's way of being healthy, it doesn't make sense. Because if that was your child, again, back to that, if you saw your child doing something that was not conducive to their health and it could harm them, you would pull them up, right? But as an adult, a lot of adults won't do it to themselves. Why? Because hardest thing for any human is to be self-responsible, right? And I can tell other people to do, but I'm my worst client, right? Because when no one's watching, what am I doing? So I had this concept if I ever was telling my daughter, brush your teeth, and then funny enough, later that night, I'm going, fucking tired, I'll brush my teeth in the morning. I go, oh, hang on, mate. Hang on. You just told your daughter to brush your teeth. She said, oh, Dad, I'm really tired. Can I do it tomorrow? And I went, no. Yeah. Fucking 2 hours later, I'm just about to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's a little inner child in me going, do it tomorrow. Because again, what does a 5, 6-year-old know about being responsible? So I've gone, I was just about to not do it myself, but I'm telling her to do it. So
yeah,
there's that, and that's why when we tell ourselves we should do this, should do that, it's the wrong approach, because there's going to be an internal resistance and handbrake that comes up straight away. Again, and I learned these 6 questions from a lot of my counselling and counselling work with people to be able to influence ourselves and others. And whenever I'm working with somebody, there's the principle I call tell and sell. The tell and sell doesn't work. That's when someone tells you what you should do. Somebody goes, you know what you should do. And normally we go and smile and go, oh, thanks for that. But then inside you're giving them the finger going, you should fuck off, like don't tell me what. Primarily because you haven't been, I haven't given you my permission for you to lay your wisdom on me. So, but but so when I work with people and they go, Jason, I really want to stop smoking. I'm just struggling with it. Instead of me going, well, you really should, it's bad for your health, which we know doesn't work, I'll go, well, why might you want to stop smoking? So I always start with that. And I say to people that are looking to make a change in their life, I go, just start with, don't say I should go to the gym, I should eat healthy. Just say, why might you want to do it? Because you're trying to avoid that internal handbrake that I just talked about going on. So I go, why might you want to change? And then they've got to give their answer and go through that process. And then the next question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to change? And if they say 7, I always say, why didn't you pick a 5? And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, you could have picked a 5, right? And I'm looking for their response. They might go, well, I am really sick and tired of being overweight. I want to be a better role model for my kids, blah, 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 blah. And I go, okay, great. And this is them telling themselves. So this is them instructing from internally what they want to do and make change, rather than me telling them what they probably should do. If they picked a 1 or 2, I go, what would it take to get to a 3 or 4? And again, I'm more interested in their response than me trying to twist them on them. And then I'll go on to the third question as I go, what might be some positive outcomes? If you were to make changes in this area and do that, what do you envision would be some of the positive outcomes if you did do it? And then they'll tell me, and again, it's just going for them they're influencing themselves without feeling there's going to be any resistance to it. And then fourthly, I go, why are these important to you? Why would these changes be important to you? And then I'll express that. And then I'll go on, what's the first step, if any? So what's the first step from here? So it's a longer process, and most of us are getting impatient. We just want to tell the people we care about what they should and shouldn't do. But the other part with it is most of us know how to act and respond when someone's telling us what we should do. We know we should push back. So, you know, when people are with me and I don't push back, it throws them a bit. They're not really sure because they're expecting me to tell them that that's wrong, or that's, you know, wrong way to think, or you should do this or do that. So when you don't push back against people, it throws them a little bit.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a really good process for change if you're working with somebody else or with yourself. You know, to I guess influence, to take some form of action without that resistance.
Yeah, people need to. I think that's the key. People need to influence themselves. People need to be ready to seek it out. I'm not. I'm definitely not that soft. You know, like I'm like, you need to be a 10. You know, if you're not a 10, then you know, like, just train for fun. Like, let's say someone wants to fight, they got to go 10. You know, you got to like really want to do it to the point where you're going to set up your life to make sure that you're safe before I sit up in hospital with you. You got to be a 10. And I think
that's a different scenario. Yeah, fighting or going to war. Yeah, that's different. And probably losing a bit of weight. Yeah.
It is and it isn't. It is and it isn't. Because I kind of feel like that kind of like Buddha to success is life a little bit. Like, until that person decides that they're a 10, just train for fun. Pop in and out when you want to.
Yeah,
but be a 10 when you want results. You know, like, you might be able to have fun, and maybe some of the real motivated people around that scenario will rub off on you, and eventually you'll become a 10, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that we are with jiu-jitsu too. It's like, those white belts need to fumble around, and hopefully all the guys that train with more focus will rub off on them eventually when they realize that that's actually how you get results, is by not half-assed and things and being a 5 or a 7, you know, like 7, what a shitty number, you know, like, how much do you want this? 7 out of 10. What a shitty fucking number, you know?
I think you know, I think we just, the same thing is saying the same thing is just that if someone takes control,
you're much than me.
someone taking control of their decisions and what they want to do, that's the most, you know, important thing from my experience, is that, you know, again, it gets tiring, and it's also tiring. So if it's up to me to tell somebody else what they need to do all the time, then, you know, that's on me. So that's why, you know, for me, it's like, hey, here's the platform. You know, here's what you need to do. Here's the avenues why you're doing it, why they're important to you. You know, 10, 7, 5, like, you know, I always say to people, whatever you do, I'll be all right. So
that's your system, right? So I think that's important for anyone in a coaching or leadership role. Set your values, set your system, and then people are going to have to match that.
Correct. Yeah.
You're not going to help people by being a soft wishy-washy willow. You're going to need a system for sure. And especially if you're running a business.
Yeah. Again, I've tried many approaches, and I find that again, for most of us, we just know how to push back. When if I'm going to throw up some objections to you, and then you're going to enter into that conversation with me and try to overcome them, I know how to do that really well. I know how to keep throwing the next objection at you, next objection, and you get tired. Because if I've had a lifetime of being a martyr, or someone who's always seeing the problem and every solution, then I'll wear you down. That's why I just drop the rope, because you can only play tug of war with somebody who wants to pick up the rope. So that's why eventually I'll go, you win, you're fucking hopeless. You got me. I agree with you. And I'm going to go and talk to this person over there because you beat me. I'm out. I'm tapping out. You're too good for me. You can definitely find the problem in every solution that I've put up. So you win. I'm out. I'm done. So I've just learned that over the years of cancer, that I won't fight with somebody until I'm exhausted. I'll do my bit, hang in there, and I'll go, right, let me know when you're ready, which I think is what you were saying before. If you're not ready, to even take that first step, it's not worth me trying to convince you of that. That's something you've got to decide on your own.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you've got a system for trying to help people decide that. I think that's fantastic. Look, we've almost blurted on for an hour here today, Jason. So thanks for jumping on. It's been good fun. It took its own different direction today, so that's cool. I'm sure anybody that comes along to get help with their gyms or PT businesses are going to definitely benefit from being able to understand emotional IQ, especially when it comes to selling and helping people get on that journey of fitness as well, and setting up a good business with a big team. So I appreciate that, and I'm sure your students appreciate that every day you get to teach them. And I look forward to having a role with you soon, and we should definitely get some of those guys up from the garage for a North Queensland holiday.
Yeah. Well, mate, it's probably the only place we can travel anyway. So we, go to stay in our own state. It's perfect. It sounds good. Brilliant.
100%. Thanks, Jason.
I really appreciate it. It's great to be able to share it.
Awesome.
Thanks, mate.